Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Melanie, but nobody ever remembers that. So I go by Mistress of the Dorkness because nobody forgets that. So I've been working in facilities since 2000. I worked directly for 2 facilities and then moved to the consulting side. And since then, I've helped dozens of facilities with their post-occupancy data management, both in implementation and support. And I've been a huge fan of BIM. Ever since I saw Revit demoed at Autodesk University a few years ago, and I was just waiting until they came out with MEP because I didn't really care about the architectural portion for facilities because I can go look at the wall. I was more interested in MEP. So if we can move on to the next slide. So projects have a beginning and an end, and I'm really thrilled that we have so many owners here today. Typically, I don't really see that when I give presentations, so I'm super excited about that. But reminding the rest of the people that facilities is constant. It's the circle of life. It's building handover, operations, renovations. It just goes around and around and never really stops. When I talk about facility management and what we need, everyone always gets derailed talking about, oh, you should really put it in the contract or the specs. Hot tip, it's in the contract, it's in the specs, so we're not going to talk about that. We'll just move on. So facilities, everyone's like, what do you need as your deliverable? And we're like, whatever you have. Give us everything. We will figure out what to do with it. We will figure out how to make it play nice and give our stakeholders what they need. So this could be CAD files, it could be Revit models, it could be tabular data, maybe it's Excel or an export from Derofus, or anything else you've connected your Revit model to on the design side. Operations manuals could be PDF or paper, whatever. I've even had deliverables of scans and videos, something that shows us what's above the ceiling or what's below the ground before things get sealed up. Provides a lot of great perspective, and we definitely put that in with our project archive. And then on the next slide, we can see where our data goes. Now, we just saw that the great diagram there from Penn State about all the different systems they use and how they're interacting with one another, and they trade data back and forth. So other teams aren't going to have Revit. So the facility subject matter expert may have to distribute a CAD file, or maybe they have their archive, they've got their patchwork quilt put together, and maybe that's still a CAD file because they don't have the funds to turn it into a Revit model yet, or it's a low priority area. So they're going to take information from the model and they're going to put it into the CAD file and distribute it to the other teams that need it. I personally haven't seen anybody sharing Revit models with stakeholders. It's always been exported out to some other format, but I'm sure there's some facility out there who is doing that. So we also export to the tabular data, PDF, images. The CAFM, CMMS, and IWMS, like spoke about in the previous presentation, Tririga, Maximo, ArcGIS, Archibus, FM Systems, Manhattan, like there's so many different programs that are going to eventually receive data that started out in this model or the other deliverables. We also make reports. Those could come out of a CAFM system, or we could be manually tabulating them, or they could come out from some other specialized homegrown thing that we've built, or we've built a connector from our CAFM system or our model that speaks to another program or spits out a report. A lot of it could just be done, information we convey in just presentations. When we speak to the other stakeholders, we're trying to give them information just the way they need it, or data exchange. That's, I just said the live connectors that will transfer data between the programs. Right, next slide, please. So this is an approximation based on the facilities that I've worked for. You know, most of the teams that I've spoken to about BIM standards are only thinking about project management and maybe the occupants, the owners or the occupant rep who is saying this is how we use our space. So the project teams have that in mind, but those are not the people who are going to be touching the deliverables. They don't care about those deliverables. They just care about the space that gets built out, or they care about getting the project closed out so finance gets off their back. Who really touches this stuff over and over again is going to be completely other departments. Yes, I've got design team and PMs in there in the middle, because at the beginning of the next project or the end of this one, yeah, there's going to be some back and forth with those datas, but they're not the primary users of this over the life cycle. I've tried to break down a little bit here. So the left-hand column, this is the owner. The left-hand column would be people that you might interact with from the design side. You know, company leadership, the finance reps, real estate doing portfolio planning or managing the leases, the people managing the projects, and that special occupant who can speak with you about how they'll use the space. In the middle is the core group, your facilities people, operations. But on the other hand, these are all those teams that you may not know about. You're never going to interact with them. They depend on the facility manager to tell the design team and to put in the specs what they need. Or the facilities figures out what they need and makes sure that it's going to be somewhere in there. And I did leave a couple off of here, I think. Conference room scheduling and hot desking. People might think space and occupancy management for that, but for those, I think it's really more important for security and housekeeping, because if you're doing conference room scheduling, you need to know who to let into the building, when to clean the rooms, and same for hot desking. You need IT to set up those spaces. You need finance to charge back the spaces to the departments who use them, and housekeeping, of course, to clean spaces that may not be used every single day. So there are a massive amount of stakeholders that are never going to touch the design team, and they don't need to. They're all going to go through facilities or whoever is that subject matter expert. That could be a BIM manager, it could be a CAD coordinator, it could be the facility manager or an occupancy manager, but there's typically going to be one core group that's really responsible as a touch point to receive new drawings and distribute the existing ones for the next renovation. And they're going to take care of all these people on the back end that need things from them off and on. So thank you for listening. I always love talking about facilities, and I'm really thrilled to be on here because obviously I've referenced Penn State a ton over the years, and very excited about the BIM standards. But if anybody just wants to see random facilities topics, whether it's related to CAD, BIM, databases, reporting, whatever, the Augie Forums has a sub-forum called Facilities Management in Practice, and those, it's not a super active forum, but whatever discussions are in there, they age well, because we always face the same, you know, issues over and over again. So I would encourage anybody to read the topics in there if they want to learn more or post questions. Thank you.